Well, welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Jake Fuller, my co-host, the big dog, Ed Brady, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if anybody saw the City Commission meeting last night, but Ed Brady was on the lips of the mayor. Let me rephrase that. He was mentioned by name by the mayor, and Ed's been out of office for 4 years. Yeah, unbelievable. You are like a brain worm. With these liberals, you are so far into their heads, they cannot get you out of their heads. This guy. So what happened was, a bunch of citizens came up to went to the city commission meeting and complained about the process that was not followed to hire a mayoral assistant or a mayoral aide, Garrett Garner. That they felt it was unfair the way the process played out. It wasn't advertised, it wasn't posted or anything like that. It was just done. And the very first time that the city has ever had a temporary full-time employee with benefits.
A temporary aide with vacation time.
They compared his.
It's absurd.
They compared his hire to a summer lifeguard at one of the city pools, except he gets benefits, a retirement plan, everything. And so, in his defense, the mayor was saying, well, I have the right to hire anybody I want. Obviously, I wouldn't hire someone like Ed Brady. And all the city commissioners snickered, except for Todd Chase. They all snickered, just derisively. They were all just condescending. And
well, if I thought they actually did research there, I might consider, but no, I would never work for the mayor. Sorry, it does not work. And that's the thing. That's actually a very significant point, that he would take what the citizens raised. And again, let's revisit the basis for this. Why wasn't this discussed in November when the job offer was extended formally by the Human Resources Department? That's when it came from. Because it wasn't advertised. It wasn't done through a public vetting, transparent process. And the real issue here that we're talking about is not who the mayor would hire, it's how it was done.
And it's not the fact
That's
that it was
the issue.
Yeah, and it's not. And I think Sherwin Henry made the point very, very eloquently. And but just to get over my Ed Brady thing, now he has managed to be mentioned by Paula Delaney in a county commission meeting, and now a city commission meeting.
I'm the man.
And
if it bodes well for the future, Paula Delaney decides she can't take it anymore. She's not going to run again. Maybe the mayor will.
You're the conservative antichrist,
I guess
Gosh,
so.
Unbelievable.
Well, the point I want to make, though, about how the mayor interpreted this shows to me a degree of condescension and arrogance that's on display. Because here's the deal. First of all, the source came from inside City Hall. So it wasn't Ed Brady and Jake Fuller who initiated this. It was someone who works for the city government. And it was actually multiple sources who are very frustrated and demoralized that this process has been hijacked. So they started it because they're concerned about the integrity of their system. Okay, we go and raise the issues. Citizens come up. They're not talking about the campaign. They're not talking about that. They're talking about this process. And the mayor turns it into, well, I wouldn't hire Ed Brady.
It wasn't political. It was just political retribution.
That is complete condescension because he is deliberately missing the point. And Sherwin, a colleague, a peer of his, Sherwin Henry, sitting there making that point about transparency, and he again deliberately misses it. That shows contempt for the citizens, shows contempt for another commissioner, it shows contempt for this entire representative system that we have here.
And let's not miss the point that if an anonymous source hadn't leaked this to us, nobody would have ever known about his new position. They did their best to keep it secret. Now, if it was all above board and legal according to the city attorney, why did they try to keep it suppressed? Anyway, one of the people that was out voicing his outrage last night is sitting with us here today. Dijon Kane, you've been a guest here before, and I saw you last night, and you were pretty impassioned. So, what are your feelings about the way the mayor reacted?
first of all, I'm going to say that our mayor don't have respect for the citizens. That has gone. It has been demolished, more or less, not even for his colleagues.
Well, you would have had to have had some before it could be demolished. I don't think he's ever had any respect.
And that's my point. I don't think so. But last night, he made it seem as though we came. He made it into this political thing. We didn't. No one came in the intentions of anything political. We came to say, look, Mr. Mayor, we have an issue. $22 an hour plus some benefits. We can't afford that in City Hall. And we all came with a purpose. And all we asked for is to make the process the right way. Do it the right way. Don't do it the old boy system way, which is what was done. It was the old boy system. We're going to do it the old way where nobody will know. Nobody can find out. Nobody will have a fair shot at this position. And as an elected official, your job is to make sure that that process is carried out. That means that the ECO office, they'll have their perspectives and be able to do their thing. And people out there that may be more qualified than this assistant of his that he says, oh, it's his personal assistant, and also not only personal, but he knows him really well. So that questions a lot of things. But I will say this: we came with a purpose. We didn't come to be rude to him. We were all respectful to our mayor, and the mayor was disrespectful to us. Well, and as ratepayers and taxpayers, I will tell you this: that is disrespectful. It needs to be looked at, and I'm gonna tell you honestly, I think it needs to be investigated because we worked too hard to allow our elected officials to make arrogant decisions like that. And I'm sorry.
Well, just a suggestion to the only commissioner that would actually do this. Todd Chase should demand that he have his own personal assistant. If the mayor is no different than any other commissioner. Now, why does he deserve a mayoral aide? I mean, why doesn't Todd Chase have one? And the thing is, I wanted to say that Sherwin Henry made a very good point, and I thought I was very proud of what he said last night. He said that none of these people that came before the city commission, they were all respectful. They had concerns about transparency and the process. And for the mayor to try to turn it into some kind of political things, accusing them of political retribution, was petty. And I think he hit the nail right on the head. So.
And I want to say, Mr. Mayor, it was not anything political. And I'm going to say this. What's funny is we get our mayor. We have a mayor that calls TV 20. And he tells TV 20 to take the story down.
Yeah, let's give some context. So 2 days ago, TV 20 runs a story on this in the evening, and now it is on their website. You can go to WCJB.com and see it. And you were one of the people in the article, and it was calling into question the hire of Garrett Garner as his assistant. It was leaked to us first, then it got on the Alachua Politics blog, and then CJB TV 20 picked it up, and now finally TV 20 has run a story. But what you're saying is that the mayor of Gainesville called the news agency and tried to get it suppressed or something.
Hissy. He likes hissy fits.
But listen, this is strong. I mean, I want to just restate that so that our listeners get the full gravity of this.
Yes.
This is a mayor trying to use the influence of his office to determine what gets on the news.
Yes.
That is stunning. But what's funny is TV 20 said thanks, but no thanks, because you're in a weak mayor system, Mr. Weak Mayor.
Well, it's none of his business to dabble in the media. I wonder how the Gainesville Sun would not have reacted any differently than TV 20.
Well, my thing of it is, if the mayor would have answered his phone, TV 20 did contact the mayor's office. Matter of fact, TV 20 also tried to contact the Human Resources office, but they let TV 20 know they were not available. So if they would have had a stronger system, if he would have answered his phone, he wouldn't have had to wake up 6:30 and say, hey, can you pull this off? I mean, he called them directly. And
I don't think he asked them. I think he told them.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to tell you, our mayor needs to get it together. Yeah. We need to get it together, and it's not with this mayor.
All right, let's take a break. And we got some callers on the line, and we want to get to you. We got a lot more to go here, so folks, stay with us. This is Talk of the Town, only on the Star 99.5.
Thinking of alternative investments? Now's the time to think about buying gold and silver, precious metals, as a hedge against inflation. With the dollar and the euro so unstable, investors worldwide have turned to precious metals. If you're ready to get started, stop in and see Ann or Vince at Coin and Jewelry Gallery Millhopper. You can trade in your old gold for something new or toward bullion investments. Coin and Jewelry Gallery on Northwest 43rd Street next to Beef O'Brady's in the Millhopper Shopping Center. Or call 378-3983 to get started today.
Hey folks, Paul from Morrell's here. It's getting to be tax time again, and with times as tough as they are, we know you want to get the biggest bang for your buck that you can get. Well, here at Morrell's, we're going to help you do just that. You won't find a bigger selection of Ashley furniture or lower prices anywhere around Lake City. Ashley recliners for $299, Ashley sofas for $315, reclining sofas for $499, or how about an Ashley sectional for only $667, or maybe a dinette table and 4 chairs for only $349. We have cushioned loose lay vinyl for 99 cents a square foot, carpet remnants for 99 cents a square foot. We have a $1.39 20-year laminate. Plus, we have over 50 mattresses to choose from, including Tempur-Pedic and iComfort, and a clearance center chock full of furniture from 20 to 50% off. So come out to Morrell's and get great deals on flooring and get furniture and mattresses for less.
Take Highway 90 west of I-75 to Jeff Davis Lane. Follow the signs to Morrell's in Lake City.
Domino's, the pizza partner of the Florida Gators, is proud to introduce our new artisan pizzas, handmade from thinly stretched dough and perfectly topped to showcase our fresh ingredients. Choose from 3 delicious varieties: spinach and feta, Italian sausage and pepper trio, and Tuscan salami and roasted veggie. Just $7.99 each. Call or order online at GatorDomino's.com. Domino's, the pizza partner of the Florida Gators.
Call Jake and Ed now, 372-3995. That's 372-3995.
Well, listen, let's take these callers. We've got Armando on line 1. Go ahead, Armando.
Hey, Ed and Jake, I hear Dijon there, but I wish you all would have had some other guests. You had more citizens that were there expressing their contempt, and I mean, people that are some callers into your shows and supporters of your shows. And
well, they're more than welcome to call in.
And the thing about it is, I think Dijon is missing some other points, is that there were citizens that addressed other issues that, you know, not only is this temporary employee receiving benefits, this is also a question of equity. Will other temporary employees receive the same level of benefits and treatment that Mr. Garner is going to be receiving? This is not about Mr. Garner. It is about the process. Not only that, is that every single crony that they have hired is either related or interrelated to Susan Botcher, the mayor, and there's no level of diversity, which is supposed to be a value that is of our city. So, I mean, it goes far beyond the scope and pale. But needless to say, it never fails to have Chad Smith somehow even intertwine and relate that this was a political retribution, as the mayor tried to imply at the meeting. This had nothing to do with political retribution. He implied that my campaign manager was doing it. No, they have been involved in this process from the beginning since this issue. I raised it, Jack Donovan, and it wasn't just Jack Donovan, by the way, again, who was the only person to contest it. Sherwin Henry also did contest it. So Chad Smith and electoral politics is an accurately stating fact.
Yeah.
They need to state facts. So it was not just Jack Donovan. So, you know, I don't know
well, in defense of how it's sort of been reported, Jack Donovan was the one who was leaving office, so it became sort of a touchstone when he left office and was so rudely dismissed by the mayor. We'll see. Sherwin Henry will be leaving office as a result of term limits at the end of his term. We'll see how Mayor Lowe handles that. Yeah.
It is my hope that we don't let this die, because the mayor is not acting.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it's got our point.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We got to keep going on this. I want to make a few points before we get to the next call. And the first is that Armando brings up a good point, one you've raised also, Dijon, that this is about really equal opportunity. I can confirm, spoke to the office, spoke all the way up to the top, that the Equal Opportunity Office was not in all involved in this process. And again, I want to state, this is the City of Gainesville's adopted policy. Ensure that each hiring decision is reviewed by Equal Opportunity before final approval to ensure it is fair, appropriate, and non-discriminatory. And I asked very directly, was this reviewed? The answer was no, not reviewed, not touched. Of course, that was addressed in the article in the sense that this was a, quote, temporary position that's not subjected to the equal opportunity rules that the city of Gainesville has. But as we've all stated, it's a full-time position. And in fact, the article does say, and what Chad Smith does get right, is a statement from the city's human resources director that says positions like Garner, notice that she says positions as in plural, says positions like Garner's do not have to be advertised for a competitive process. But then she says Garner is the only one in that category currently. So it is a singular position.
It was created for him.
Just for him.
And it was given, and the benefits were given to him. And I think our caller raised some good points. What about all the other temporary employees? Do they get the same choice of having benefits? I don't think so. Let's take Debbie on line 2. Go ahead, Debbie.
Yeah, and, just like Ed just said, the mayor may not have broken the law, but I believe he skirted the law.
Well, it was unethical is what it was.
Yeah, I believe he went to the city manager and had the city manager go to the HR director and have them change the requirements, and then they slipped it in on the consent agenda, and the city commissioners all just voted for it. So, I just want to be clear on this. It's Mayor Lowe and 5 commissioners that refuse to stand up to the people. It's Commissioners Master DeCasa, Hawkins, and Wells that all agree that they can hire this personal aide without any kind of competition. And then here we have the newer Commissioner Botcher, who had every opportunity last night to stand up for the citizens. But no, she agrees that we don't need to advertise for this. So therefore, they think that this is all okay. They agree with this, and they all need to go.
Well, it made a lot of people angry, and I guarantee you this is going to be a huge campaign issue when Craig Lowe comes up for re-election.
It needs to be, and we need people out there. And I think it makes a difference when you're out there. I was there last night, and the sense in that room was just, I will tell you, it was crazy. The sense in that room was that our commissioners did not care, except Sherwin Henry and Mr. Todd Chase. Those were the only 2 that seemed like they really cared about our issues. I'm sorry. If you're there, it's a whole different thing than you're not being there. So I was there. I felt it. I didn't like it. And I'm going to address it. And I'm going to keep pushing this until we get something done.
Well,
I sure hope so. All
right. Thanks, Debbie. We appreciate it. Well, what they did was, in a weak mayor system, they basically deferred to the mayor and gave him power that he doesn't deserve.
I have to say this, and I have served in office with mayors who both embrace the weak mayor system, which is also, the council manager, which was, I would say, Tom Bussing. He never tried to overstep his authority. And with Pegeen Hanrahan, who would have loved to, but not even she did this. And that's the main point. And I want to share this. This is an article that does go all the way back to June when Lowe's 2010, when Lowe first hired his campaign manager. They wrote a brief story about it. And Pegeen, who's publicly supported Craig Lowe, has this quote from former Mayor Pegeen Hanrahan. Quote, "It wasn't the structure that I had, but it's certainly a common structure and a defensible one. That is the mayor hiring a system." Well, listen, note to Pegeen Hanrahan, your structure is exactly the same as Lowe's structure and is exactly the same as Bussing's. Ever since we went to directly elected mayor, not one word of the city charter regarding the mayor's position has changed. The structure has remained the same. Craig Lowe circumvented it. You didn't, to your credit, even though I know she would have loved to, and Tom Bussing didn't. And my suspicion is the next elected mayor also won't. Only Craig Lowe feels he gets to step outside the rules here to hire his own. And then, just to give you the order of operation, it's not that the city charter officers or others said, how can we do this? It was pretty much done. They said, how can we protect? How can we put in place what's needed to make it look legal?
And the thing is, he said, well, one of his excuses is, well, I can't be 2 places at one time. Well, neither can the other commissioners. So why don't they deserve an aid? And the thing is, by saying that,
he's not that important.
So saying that shows me that he's deceptive, he's unethical, and apparently he's incompetent, because every other mayor has been able to handle this part-time job without an aide. So suddenly this part-time job, he doesn't even have a job outside of the city.
Well, and
as a part-time job, And
You know,
so
and
he can't
also,
he can't
the fact
represent
is,
anyone?
under the council manager form, if the mayor can't make it, then it's the vice mayor. It's the mayor pro tem, it's called, who usually goes. And if one of them can't, then it's one of the other commissioners. I was asked to stand in a few times. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Yeah, so it's not like a 25-year-old aide is being asked to come. They just want an elected official, not the aide. They want the elected official.
So you were asked by Pagine, right, that time that there was a ribbon cutting ceremony at the drying beds at the sewage treatment plant?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
I got to look at that one.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's take
I was on
Tom.
the dirt inspection review team.
Yeah, let's take Tom on line one. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, great show. Dijon, that was a great show you did last night, man. I wish I could have recorded it. I'm glad you got a hold of the commissioners and told them about how they pay attention when the citizens talk. Because you're right. They do not watch. They don't listen. They don't give a damn. They've got a little clique up there, just like you said. And if the mayor won't resign, I don't know what the hell his problem is.
Well, you know, Tom,
I've never seen it. I know that him and the guy's good friends. I wonder just how good they are, how good of friends they are.
Well, you know, Tom, let's look at it this way. With this past election on Tuesday, it simply reaffirmed their arrogance, because when you have 14% of the voters turn out, they have nothing to fear, because it was obviously they know they're going to win every spring election. They know they have nothing to fear by the voters because the voters are apathetic. So it's just you know, they have nothing to fear. I mean, so it just reaffirmed their arrogance towards the citizens.
I hope y'all keep riding this story. Keep riding and keep riding it, Dijon. I hope you keep going to the commission meeting, because I enjoyed it last night. All the citizens did real good last night. But the mayor is very arrogant, very arrogant. And that little kid next to him, I'd love to just slap him upside the head. Y'all take care.
All right, thanks. We appreciate it. Let's take Stafford on line 2. Go ahead, Stafford.
Hey, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you know, the mayor himself called TV 20 and had that story, that original story, on the pulled off the website for about 20 minutes, and then I guess TV 20 decided that you know, the story fairly reflected the concerns of citizens, and they put it back up. But yeah, the mayor himself called TV 20 and tried to have that story pulled.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I really want that to sink in with listeners, that this is the level. I mean, we think of Rahm Emanuel tactics here. This is strong-arm attempts that, fortunately, are feeble, but still, nonetheless, that's the attempt.
And if you watch the show, if you watched the city commission meeting last night, the lady that came on, I didn't catch her name, but right after Dijon was on there, she looked at the mayor and directly asked him, I want to ask you directly, did you call Channel 20 and demand that their story be pulled off their website? And he never looked at her, never acknowledged her, and never answered. That's the arrogance of this guy. Never answered her. So.
He absolutely didn't. And I was watching the whole thing, and you know, one of the things that this guy doesn't seem to understand is that he doesn't. I put this in our newsletter this morning. He doesn't run the town. He just runs the meeting, but he doesn't seem to understand that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we appreciate it, Stafford. Thanks.
And I said this way a long time ago when I was just a commissioner, and I served with Pagine Hanrahan, who had ambitions for a strong mayor system. And I would say to Deus, look, if we want to have that conversation, then let's have the conversation. Let's just be open about it. Don't try to, behind the scenes, accumulate power that's not given you. Mr. Mayor, Craig Lowe, if you want a strong mayor system, let's talk about it. You can't just do it, but let's have that community conversation.
You can do it when you have less than 15% of the voters turn out, and when you have a majority of the commissioners sitting there like a bunch of
lemmings.
Lemmings, or hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. They just sit there and basically rubber stamp everything. He goes, he pulls, and so he can get away with it. I mean, so anyway, we got to take a break here, and we're going to ask our caller to hang on. We'll be right back.
The doctors at Eye Surgery Center understand that you've worked hard to get where you are today, and the last thing you need is decreased vision. The doctors apply state-of-the-art technique and technology to give their patients the best options for eye care and cataract treatment, including the multifocal Restore lens for both distance and near vision. So if you've been told that you have cataracts or you're just not happy with your vision, call Eye Surgery Center at 352-377-7733. That's Eye Surgery Center, 377-7733.
Look how easy Florida Credit Union has made it to get a new credit card.
Don't give up having a credit card. Just give up the high interest rates. Make the switch to a Florida Credit Union credit card today and start enjoying lower interest rates, lower payments, and better customer service. Consolidate your high interest rate balances into one easy low rate payment with Florida Credit Union. We're not the big banks. We're local and not for profit. Make the switch today and start saving.
Come on and join the team. You'll be glad you did.
Victor Ray, this is Scorpion 23 traveling west on MSR.
In war, there will always be casualties. And for our wounded warriors, coming home can sometimes be a battle in itself. Join us and send your message of support to our wounded warriors at USO.org. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Shot clock under 10 seconds. It is inside to George. George goes up and lays it in off the glass.
This is Adam Schick, voice of Florida women's basketball.
Shine in the corner. 3-ball. Yes! Brittany Shine. Gators up by 12.
Catch every women's basketball game exclusively on the Star 99.5.
Bonds running out right side. Goes all the way. Scores and count the basket.
The Gators advance to the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament and take on top-seeded Kentucky this afternoon at 1 on the Star 99.5.
Call Jake and Ed now. 372-3995. That's 372-3995.
The Precious Metals Report is presented by Coin and Jewelry Gallery at 2007 Northwest 43rd Street in the Millhopper Shopping Center. Current market conditions for gold is $1,712.30 per ounce. Silver selling for $34.95 per ounce, and platinum commands $1,703 per ounce. That's the Precious Metals Report presented by Coin and Jewelry Gallery. I flubbed. That's a half flub. Half flub.
I love it. A flub's a flub. Let's take Marty on line one. Go ahead, Marty.
Yes, I'd like to make a point, but I'd like to do it by asking a question.
Okay.
What do you all and your listeners think would happen if the city of Gainesville posted online for an internship for an aide to the mayor? They would probably have 500 people applying the very next day, highly qualified probably people that could do the same type of job, and they might do it for free, but if not, they certainly would do it for $10 an hour without the benefits and as needed. So they might only be working 20 hours a week. I just know that would happen, but I promise I wasn't going to make the point. I was just going to ask the question. So
and I think Ed can answer that, because when he was a commissioner, thanks for the call, Marty. When he was a commissioner, they had students. They had internships are unpaid a lot of times, and they were lining up to do this because it looks good on a resume.
If I had if I got in and I'd say to my assistant at the time is Devanya, a very competent lady who's the administrative assistant. I say, I saw this report in Forbes magazine about the top 15 growing cities or something like that. Can't remember when. She'd have it on my desk within a half hour. I mean, there's remarkably competent people who do not, who are non-political, who are good at getting this stuff. But I would say, what policy-making role does the mayor exclusively have above any of the other elected officials that entitles him to that type of position?
And I think this position is something to do with public relations or something to do with the public.
Well, it was funny. Bernard, the HR director, I think they put in here what his enhanced duties are, and something's like, quote, in-depth research. So he goes from research to in-depth research.
Yeah.
That's the justification. I mean, folks, if you just read it, it is laughable. If it wasn't such an infringement on the way we have our system structured, it would. That's what makes it pathetic.
And he was. I think part of the description is citizen relations or something.
Yeah, liaison for the mayor to community neighborhood groups.
Yeah. So this is the guy who's supposed to be interacting with the citizens, and his comment was no comment.
Yeah.
Nice
right.
going. Let's take Kevin on line one. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hey, thanks. I would ask, if I were Todd Chase, I would ask Arian Hudson to give the confession and opinion on whether the charter and the procedures were followed, asking him also for an attorney general's opinion on whether this Garrett was properly hired. If this had been a conservative, the Sun would have been all over it.
Yep. All right.
Well, I would say this. I think what the attorney's office did was make it legal, essentially avoiding the transparency, avoiding the open process and stuff, and said, look, if this thing's going to pass the smell test, this is what we have to do, and they did it. It still doesn't pass the smell test, though.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate it, Kevin. We got to take Darlene. Go ahead, Darlene.
Gentlemen, good show, yes, and I watched that whole meeting, and I just wanted to kick the television. That's how bad I thought it was. Wow. Number one, when the mayor said, this is not political, don't we call people that are in office politicians?
Well, and don't we call campaign managers? Wouldn't that make it slightly political?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, but I think what he has done, and Commissioner Henry was 100% right, and when about being nice to the people, I mean, what has happened and what I have seen, and Ed, you can attest to this probably too, I have never seen in the 10 or 15 years that I've watched these meetings, as long as they've been on television, such animosity
towards their own bosses, which are the people.
Exactly. I mean, it was.
Yeah, and the thing is, could you expect anything less from this city commission? Their arrogance is just overflowing.
But it's following way he runs the meetings. Yes. Number one, his attitude is. I want to ask the mayor, and hopefully he's listening, to watch the county commission meetings, and I agree with Commissioner Byerly on the county commission when he said that the citizens want answers. When a citizen goes in front of the county commission, those commissioners, while they're standing up there, the citizen, they talk to them eye level. They don't go down. I have seen with the commissions last night, I mean, if Commissioner Hawkins ever looks up, it would be a miracle. With their iPads or their iPhones or whatever they're doing is so disrespectful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And yeah. All right, we appreciate it, Darlene. We got.
By the way, I want to say one thing real quick to Darlene. I saw her picture. Darlene has a photo. I guess she went to CPAC or something and has a picture arm in arm with the legendary Andrew Breitbart, who actually passed away recently. Who has passed into legend, actually, because he was a great guy.
Great man. Thank you.
All right, thanks. We appreciate it.
They just got to remember, we elected them. And that's what I said last night. We elected you to do a job, and when you become incompetent and can't do the job, then we need to find someone else to do it.
Incompetent and arrogant, because that's the only surprise that I saw last night. The only surprise that was missing last night was the fact that the mayor didn't get up and walk out on people, because and the thing is, habit. And if you saw his demeanor last night, his body language, he was stammering and stuttering, he was shaking when he was trying to make excuses for this hire, and you could tell he was very uncomfortable about the whole thing. I'm surprised he didn't get up and just leave.
Hey, folks, if you're getting a call in, better do it fast, because we're going to end our show early today at about 3 or 4 minutes, really, to go to Lady Gators basketball. So now's the time to get your call in.
All right, let's take John real quick on line one. Go ahead, John. You got to make it quick.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm kind of disappointed. I wish they'd done on the biomass like they did about Lowe's assistant. But I tell you what, after hearing what I heard about how Boncher was going after charge case because there's a biomass thing on his website and all this crap, I'm going to continue going down to City Hall meetings. I want everybody to know that that's listening to this radio today. I said last night I wasn't going to go down there no more because it's a waste of energy. But let me tell you, I'm going to continue to go down there. I'm not going to leave Todd Chase at the mercy of those liberals down there by himself. I'm going to be down there to defend his position. Let me tell you something. 45% of people voted for Scott. That tells me we need 2 more commissioners on the city commission that think like Scott and Chase does, or we're not getting enough fair representation in this town. I'm telling you that right now.
All right, we appreciate the call. Thanks for the comments. And anything else you wanted to add to it, Dijon?
If I got people upset, I think that when you're silent, that's when we begin to fail. I believe that when you begin to voice the issues and the things that are going on that are wrong, that's when we begin to win. And we got to keep that attitude, and we got to keep pressure on this. And you know what? There is no apology for the truth. But this city needs to be looked at and revised by the citizens and listened to by the taxpayers of this community, which is a great place.
Now, how would you answer the charge that you're just disgruntled political retribution?
You know what? I am an everyday citizen, and my job is to make sure that our city government does what they're elected to do because we elect them. And so the way I would answer that is say, do your job, because we're going to make sure you do it. And I'm going to make sure.
Yeah, regardless of whether you were a candidate for city office, you're still a private citizen. You're still a taxpayer.
And that's what, last night, really quick, that's what affected me because we are. And I think that's what the mayor forgot. I was not coming there because I was a candidate or because I supported a certain candidate. I came there because we had a legitimate issue. African Americans were not brought into this, and a lot of them could have qualified too. People are hurting on the east side. A lot of them could have had this. So when you go to talking to me about $22 an hour, which is what, 50-some thousand a year, that is a big, big waste of money that hurts people, and people need jobs, and that was a job that was not given.
Well,
I would just also, my last comments are, because I'm still sort of thinking what the last caller gave us the question. Okay, what's up for Mr. In-Depth Researcher? Where's his work product? He's been on the payroll for a number of years. It should be a public record. Where is his work product?
There's not one.
Where is Mayor Lowe's uniquely initiated policy recommendations based on research? This is needed. Where's the product?
Yeah, we'd love to see the job performance review, wouldn't we? That'd be interesting. Well, listen, we appreciate everybody joining us today. We hope you have a great weekend, and I hope the Lady Gators win this
winning,
one.
Gators. This is good
Gators.
stuff.
Yeah.
All because they broadcast on the Star.
Well, we're taking it for the team, taking one for the team because we're getting off the air and they're going to be on.
As long as we get paid our $10,000 bonus for Friday.
Our $22 an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Shout out to Serena, the women's basketball manager there.
All right. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. And go Gators. We'll see you on Monday.
Good morning. This is Thomas Hayes Morrison, and I am the spirit of Paul Revere and the voice of the resistance in North Central Florida. My message to you every day is the founders were right. All men are created equal. They are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, or at least not by some government person. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent to the governed, and that consent can be withdrawn. And I remind you, those rights can't be stolen, just surrendered. Joey Kufari is here with me this morning on the Star in 99.5 Radio Free Florida. Joey's an important guy in the studio and the station. Thank you for coming in, Joey. Really, he's nodding his head, yes. I'm not sure he had a choice, but I appreciate him coming in. He's a real pro. And I mention these guys because they have taken me, someone with no experience in radio, and I may not be a pro, but I tell you what, they're making my show a good show, and I'm really grateful to all of them, the guys that sit in. And Joey's one of those people. And on top of that, I have a great relationship with Joey because he has to handle my handling the paperwork, which I seem to be totally unable to grasp the system, and he's infinitely patient. So I appreciate that. If you'd like to join us, and Joey promises he'll be nice when you call, 352-3723. 99.5 352-3723 99.5, and we're streaming live on the web at www.thestar.fm www.thestar.fm. So if you drive out of our broadcast area, get us on your smartphone or tell your friends that live someplace else. I want to talk a little bit more about Andrew Breitbart. I mentioned yesterday at the beginning of the show that he died yesterday, and I thought it was a great loss. I have another quote from him. It's an extended quote. It's actually taken from his book, Righteous Indignation. Excuse me while I save the world. This is Breitbart. Make no mistake, America is in a media war. It's an extension of the Cold War that never ended but shifted to an electronic front. The war between freedom and statism ended geographically when the Berlin Wall fell, but the existential battle never ceased. When the Soviet Union disintegrated, the battle simply took a different form. Instead of missiles, the new weapon was language and education, and the international left had successfully constructed a global infrastructure to get its message out. Schools, newspapers, network news, art, music, film, television. If the political left weren't so joyless, humorless, intrusive, taxing, overtaxing, anarchistic, controlling, rudderless, chaos-prone, pedantic, unrealistic, hypocritical, clueless, politically correct, angry, cruel, sanctimonious, redistributive, I can't even say the word, intolerant, and if the political left weren't hell-bent on expansion of said unpleasantness into all aspect of my family's life, the truth is, I would not be in your life. If the Democratic Party were run by Joe Lieberman and Evan Baugh, if it had the slightest vestige of JFK and Henry Scoop Jackson, I wouldn't be on the political map. If the American media were run by biased but not evil Tim Russerts and David Brinkleys, I wouldn't have joined the fight. If America's pop cultural ambassadors like Alec Baldwin and Janine Garofalo, do you know how to say her name?
Janine Garofalo?
Awesome. Ask a young person. All right. Didn't come back from their foreign trips to tell us how much they hate us. If my pay cable didn't highlight a comedy show every week to call me a racist for embracing constitutional principles and limited government, I wouldn't be at tea parties screaming my love for this great charitable and benevolent country. I am a reluctant cultural warrior. And I share that with you not only because it illustrates who Andrew Breitbart was, but it also is a really good description of my own feelings. And once again, I share with you, this is one of the things I wish I had written, because it really does sum up how I feel. It turns out Breitbart had a heart condition or heart problem, and it looks like that's what it is, but they are going to do a, what do you call it, when they...
autopsy?
Yes, thank you, boy. Okay, they're going to do an autopsy, and there were some comments. I think Michael Savage said, mate, was he assassinated? Who knows? There was a lot of discussion, and there's some things in the discussion about Breitbart yesterday. There was a lot of discussion that caught my ear, I guess, and I want to share with you because it's things that hit me in a lot of ways. Some of the things people who knew him have been saying about him. It was never, they say, about people. It was always about principles. And I will tell you, in this business, that is sometimes difficult to maintain. You see people as people, and it's hard to sometimes remember they probably go home and they're nice to their wives or husbands and children and pets because their policies are so destructive. Hard to see them as people, and I try and take that to heart, but it's a struggle. Someone else said he always operated with love, kindness, and joy, and he apparently had a great sense of humor. You could see, just look at the acorn sting. If you step back from that, it had a serious outcome. It did away with acorn as acorn. They haven't gone away totally, but it had a big impact. But that's the kind of thing Saturday Night Live would do, is a skit. Dress two clean-cut college graduates, mass communications majors up as a pimp and a prostitute and send them around all these offices. I mean, that takes a certain perspective. I envy it. It's said he generally liked people who were active, no matter which side they're on. And boy, I share that. And I say that from time to time. I admire the people, particularly who run and hold office. It's an incredible amount of work, no matter where you are, and it takes a great focus and a great dedication, even to do the minimum. And so you take the people, even locally, that I believe literally are destroying our community through their, I suppose, well-intentioned, in their words, ideological programs. But I know that it's hard work, and I admire that. And you don't see me doing it. You see me doing this instead. Somewhat less accountabilities. Someone else said he pushed the boundaries of what we can talk about. And I think that's very, very important. We live in an age of tremendous political correctness, and I have pointed out, and I continue to point out, that I think that's one of the greatest threats to us, is political correctness is a major restriction on our First Amendment right to free speech. And it's hugely, hugely powerful these days, political correctness. And I'm telling you, it's restricting conversations not only in the public arena where it shouldn't, but even privately. I find people walking around on eggshells. They might say something that offends somebody. or could. No, not even offend somebody. I've been told by our political masters may offend somebody based on superficial physical characteristic, a sexual preference, a disability. I mean, what normal people even think much about that stuff? Well, our political masters do, and they have colored completely the conversation. And that's a huge problem, because if we can't say what we're thinking, we're done, folks. We are done. And nobody more than, I think, Andrew Breitbart pushed that boundary. And then finally, something that caught my mind is a number of people say he was fearless. And I believe I appreciate that more than anything else. And it's probably the most personal for me, because I will share with you, I get feedback on what I say from friends and sometimes from not such friends. And when I was thinking about Breitbart last night and this morning and thinking about the show and what I wanted to talk about, I realized, from time to time, I've let my fear of criticism censor what I say. It may have been subtle, but it's been there. I suspect Breitbart ran right by that kind of thing. Or maybe he didn't. And I'm going to try and be sensitive to that, because when I have the right to believe or to say what I say, as long as I have the data and what have you to back it up, and people sometimes don't like the conclusions because they are not politically correct. And I get some heat. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, in hindsight, I suspect I've let that heat affect what I say about things that I think are hugely important. We are a show in a relatively small area of the United States, but I think that's where the fight is in the local communities. Doesn't get the same amount of noise that some of the bigger issues do, or bigger areas do, but you know what? The issues are right here. If you think Obama is destroying the country, look at the local politicians. Look at the Gainesville City Commission. Look at the Alachua County Commission. If you live outside our broadcast area, for the people in San Francisco for whom I'm the morning show, good morning. But look around you at San Francisco. It's famous for self-destructive stuff. And it's been turned into a circus, if not a zoo. That can't be good for us long term, and it's happening locally. So, we need to say these things. We need to talk about things. We need to talk about the impacts of, quote, diversity, positive and negative, and the negatives seem to greatly outweigh. We need to talk about environmental stuff. We need to talk about it in a real way. We need to talk about economics. We need to talk about the loss of our individual freedoms. The loss of our individual freedoms, even at a local area. It's pretty stunning. Anyway, Breitbart, tremendous courage. He was fearless. And I got to say, I'm going to miss him from a very great distance, even if it's just, I just knew he was out there ahead of me. And as I said to you yesterday, I followed his sites with great interest, and I have not seen anything on who's going to take over. He had people around him, but I suspect he was the driving force, and there's not many of them out there. And he, to show how effective he was, I'll finish with this. He helped start, Ariana Huffington start the Huffington Post, which is as wacko and far to the left as you can get. And he first worked for Matt Drudge at Drudge. And if you're really into this stuff, you know about Drudge and the Drudge Report, right? And I usually have it up on the computer every place I go, even here. So he helped start Matt Drudge's Drudge Report and the Drudge sites, and he moved off to do the big sites, the big governments and what have you. And what an amazing human being he was. What a warrior. And, I'm going on more than I planned to, but it's interesting how people impact you and how you have impact on people you'll never know. He never knew me, never knew that he impacted me, but boy, he has had a huge impact. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. I see, Ron, that you're on. If you'll hold through the break, we'll be right back. You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. If you'd like to join us, 352-372-3995. We'll be right back.
This is Gunnar from Skyfrog Tree Service. This is our second advertisement with 99.5. We're reaching out to the right people. I'm very grateful to be on the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show and a supporter of that program. When we send a representative out to someone that's called in for an estimate, the approach that Robin and John have is as an arborist first to see what we can do for your trees and for the customer. I'm extremely proud of my crew. Skyfrog has a great safety record and we have a lot of repeat business, and that says something about what we're doing. Please call John or Robin at 352-262-3470 or check us out on our webpage, skyfrogtreeservice.com. One of the most important things I tell my guys, and I tell them all the time, is to leave the yard looking like it was your mom's yard, squared away and better than when you got there. I'm a retired Marine officer and I run my business that way. Don't forget our website, skyfrogtreeservice.com. Stay motivated.
Did you know when approaching a marked crosswalk in your vehicle, you have to yield to any pedestrian attempting to cross? It's the law. Pay attention or pay the price. For more information, call the Gainesville Police Department's traffic unit at 334-3324.
Did you know pedestrians do have the right of way on marked crosswalks? However, on a marked crosswalk with a signal, a pedestrian must wait for the correct signal to cross. For more information, call the Gainesville Police Department's traffic unit at 334-3324.
Shot clock under 10 seconds. The dish inside to George. George goes up and lays it in off the glass.
This is Adam Schick, voice of Florida women's basketball.
Shine in the corner. 3-ball. Yes! Brittany Shine. Gators up by 12.
Catch every women's basketball game exclusively on the Star 99.5.
Bonds running out right side. Goes all the way. Scores and counts the basket.
The Gators advance to the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament and take on top-seeded Kentucky this afternoon at 1 on the Star 99.5.
Wake up! Wake up! Tyranny is coming! Tyranny is coming! Wake up! We are back. Joey just looked at me. He can't get the horse back in the stable with me saying run back. I'm focused, Joey. That's what I am. I'm focused, and I don't want to run by Ron. Ron, welcome to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show.
I'll tell you, aside from the county commissioners throwing the Democrats out, put some Republicans in, I really would like to see the Republican committee get someone to run against supervisor of elections due to the way she's treated. There's no fairness in what they do. I mean, she's ridiculous. And
do you have actually, Ron? Let me ask you: do you have a specific example of that?
Well, I think particular with the fact of the recent election, the city elections.
Yeah.
Only opening the one branch downtown and not opening branches, say, out in Millhopper and other areas where the people who depend on the bus on the east side, they're not going to take a bus and go all the way downtown to do early voting.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, Stafford Jones, the chairman of the Republican Executive Committee, has up on their site, I think, a note or a post or whatever you call it, and he's been on and on about that. What I'm going to do, Ron, believe it or not, I rarely defend government departments, and I will put this disclaimer. I don't understand the rules, who does what to whom, but my impression from listening to Stafford and reading what he wrote is the supervisor of elections doesn't have much to do with where the elections are, at least in this kind of thing. I think they were a subcontractor or a contractor to the city. I could be wrong, but you can find it out. And I agree. But I want to tell you this. I have been down there a couple of times. In fact, I was going to talk about it. I was down there yesterday. I had a question on a way of doing things, which I'll share with you later in the show if we get time. And they're always polite and they're always efficient. And when I changed parties, there was absolutely no hassle. I had some questions on how you do something, and Pam Carpenter took me into her office back in last July, and she couldn't have been more open and pleasant and helpful. And I was in there yesterday, and I talked to Kim, the outreach person, who actually I've had some interaction with before, and she could not have been more helpful or pleasant. And what I'm learning as an aside, I had some questions for them, and what they said to me is, that's really not elections. You should talk to the city or county, I suppose, depending on what you're trying to do, county attorneys. I like to figure that out. So,
I got one other comment.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that, but I have invited Pam Carpenter to come on my show and explain to us, and I'm saying that actually as in a friendly invitation, Pam Carpenter, to come on and explain what the supervisor of elections does, and because I don't understand. I don't know. Some people do. People like Stafford Jones and John Reiskin, who's the Democrat chair, I'm sure they really understand it. But I don't think most of us do understand what they can do, and I hope she'll come on. And she is running for re-election, and I don't know whether somebody is going to or should run against her or not, but it's a good point. What else you got, Rob?
And the second is it just probably galls me a little bit that the tax collector is just out on the street with all of the signs that I'd love to see somebody run against him, put him out of office too.
Yeah.
He's a little greedy because the more money they get, the more money he gets to get in his coffers to distribute. I sure would like to see somebody run against him too.
How about you, Ron?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the elections part of it, nor do I know enough about the tax collection part of it.
We live in an age of relatively open information about the mechanics of those things, maybe not about how they really operate politically or anything else. And I love your honest response, because I have spent the last couple of years listening to people saying we need to change, and certainly I say 5 times a day, it seems like we need to change this or change that. And it's interesting, who do we get to do this? It's like everything else in life. The number of people that are concerned and upset about things that are going on are legion, if you will, and then the number of people who are willing to help work on campaigns for candidates or on issues, the number diminishes, and then those that are actually willing to run for office is a relatively small percentage, I suppose, for the reason I mentioned it in the first segment when I was talking about Breitbart generally liking everybody that was active, and I feel the same way. So, think about it, Ron. You're obviously somebody paying attention, and that is the first requirement.
Yeah, but the real problem with someone running is the truthfulness of it is they have to have the money within which to finance a campaign to run. Otherwise, you're really beat.
That's a really good point. Let me tell you how that works. Okay, and it really does work this way. And I am, as I say from time to time, I'm a volunteer in the Yoho for Congress campaign. And Ted is new to politics. He's a successful veterinarian businessman here, and he's had enough, and so he's decided to run for office. And he says, I'm going to run for Congress, which is like saying, gee, I just saw a baseball game. I think I'll play Major League Baseball. And he's proving he can do it. But here are the lessons that I have learned from that. And it's this. The system has you gather votes from the beginning. And the way you gather votes from the beginning is you go to your friends, you go to groups that you think are sympathetic to what you're saying, and you ask them to vote for you by writing a check. Most candidates have very little of their own money in it for 2 reasons. One, most people don't have a lot of money. And the second is all the donors and the candidates' contributions or loans to the campaigns are public knowledge. And it comes out, I don't know, monthly or quarterly, I guess. And so people know what you're doing. And it's a little embarrassing, unless you're a zillionaire, Michael Bloomberg in New York, or something, to finance your own campaign. So you know what, Ron? Ask your friends how they feel about the tax collector or the supervisor of elections. Go to you can go to the Republican, the REC meetings, I think, the 4th Thursday. You can go to the Tea Party meetings. You can go to the Democratic Executive Committee meetings, for that matter. You can go to the Rotary Club. Yeah, and that's really how it works. That's why it takes the energy. But the fact you're interested in it, that is the first step. The fact that if you're in fact willing to go out and ask people to give you a check for $5 or $10, you'll find out you'll have the money to run. The local elections don't cost, quote, that much money. Anyway, does that help?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate your listening, and I appreciate your calling, and I know there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other Rons out there listening to us, Ron. And, the same goes for all of us. If you have an issue or you have an office you're particularly upset about, you can run. That is the secret, I suppose. You can run. You can run. That's a real secret. Anybody can run. The paperwork is there. You can go down and talk to the supervisor of elections people, and you can talk to Pam Carpenter. That'd be interesting. Go down and tell her you want to run for supervisor of elections. But anyway, they have the paperwork, and that's how you get started. You get started by going to your friends and saying, I'm thinking I'm running. Will you donate to my campaign? And if over time you find out that people are not donating to your campaign, it's probably one of 2 things. One, either other people don't care about what you care about, which is an interesting kind of thing, or 2, that you're not able to get your message across. What you're saying is not resonating with the electorate, and you have to perhaps review your message or what you're doing. And that's how it works. It's an iterative process, and it's a fascinating one to be involved in. And the third thing, I suppose, is if people will run, that shows our political masters that the natives are restless, right? And that in and of itself has a big impact on policy, a big impact. So you're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida for this hour. If you'd like to join us, 352-3723, 99.5. We'll be right back. I want to introduce you to my friend Rod Gonzalez, who came from Venezuela to UF to get a good education. After he graduated, he started the arduous process of legally attaining U.S. residency and citizenship. Rod's a successful entrepreneur, a great contributor to our society, and an enthusiastic and loyal American.
In 1887, Alexander Tyler, a Scottish history professor, had this to say about great civilizations. A democracy is always temporary in nature. It simply cannot exist as a permanent form of government. A democracy will continue to exist up until the time that the voters discover that they can vote themselves generous gifts from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidate who promises the most benefits, with the result that every democracy will finally collapse over loose fiscal policy, then be followed by a dictatorship. These civilizations progress through the following sequence: from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from great courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to complacency, from complacency to apathy, from apathy to dependence, from dependence back into bondage. We are without a doubt moving from apathy to dependence. I ask that during this presidential primary, you truly vote for that individual you believe will cut our current spending and not just any future increase. For if we continue down this path, you will not like the next phase we move into. My name is Rod Gonzalez. Thanks for listening.
The doctors at Eye Surgery Center understand that you've worked hard to get where you are today, and the last thing you need is decreased vision. The doctors apply state-of-the-art technique and technology to give their patients the best options for eye care and cataract treatment, including the multifocal Restore lens for both distance and near vision. So if you've been told that you have cataracts or you're just not happy with your vision, call Eye Surgery Center at 352-377-7733. That's Eye Surgery Center, 377-7733.
Wake up! Wake up! Tyranny is coming! Tyranny is coming! Wake up! We're back. You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5. The last caller gave us a good introduction into something I want to talk about today, and that's elections. And we're going to talk a bit about the presidential election, don't we? But elections in general. Here's something caught my eye this morning. If you think there's a problem with our supervisor of elections, or there's an issue with the election system in general, which apparently there is, in a lot of places, you know, the Democrats don't want any kind of photo ID, all of this kind of stuff. There's always accusations of huge voter fraud. We happen to be blessed in this area. We have a guy, Ramsey Samurai, who is a long-term Republican operative, I guess is the neutral term. But he played a major role in the Bush recount, and he's been the mayor of Micanopy, and he is expert in voter fraud, and he is trying to put together a group of people to monitor the polls and to fight fraud in November, and it'd be worth getting a hold of him. But anyway, Ramsey, if you're listening, how about this? New Mexico man faces charges after signing dog up to vote. That's pretty funny, except the New Mexico man who registers his dog to vote in an apparent attempt to expose flaws in the electoral system may face prosecution. Of course he will. A Bernalillo County official, I think that's Albuquerque, told KOB-TV Thursday that regardless of his intentions, the unnamed dog owner had broken the law. Buddy, a black Labrador, received a voter registration card in the mail after his owner applied with a made-up birth date and social security number. The man who told KOB-TV had no intention of actually voting under his dog's name said the registration was processed and accepted by the county clerk's office. County clerk Maggie Toulouse-Oliver called his actions disheartening as well as illegal. I would warn those individuals who think this type of activity is a joke or a gotcha that, regardless of their intentions, they've broken the law and will therefore have to be subject to due process of law. I wonder if she chases the illegal aliens that vote in New Mexico as hard as she's chasing Buddy the black Labrador. Think about that. I don't know how often that stuff happens. When Ruth and I and the kids, we lived in New York decades ago now, there was a couple that signed up their Great Dane for welfare payments. Same kind of thing. And my recollection, it's an old story, my recollection is they not only got the welfare payments, then they went in and said, look, you're giving welfare payments to our dog. They got a tremendous amount of heat. And when all had settled down, they did it again. The same office and what have you. So, Buddy the Black Labrador is a voter in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You got to wonder if we have him here. Who's responsible for that? And the woman that's the county clerk, is more upset with Buddy the Labrador than she is with what is most likely a real problem with illegal aliens voting there. Which gets us to illegal stuff. The Economist this week had an article on the Chicago way, capital of corruption. So who do we have as president? I give you a little background. On March 15th, the former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, will start to serve a 14-year sentence for corruption in a federal low-security prison. In this part of America, he's treading on a well-worn path. Over 4 decades, 4 governors out of 7 have been convicted of corruption. Let me just insert. Do you know who was the chairman of Blagojevich's re-election committee? I think twice. I haven't looked lately, but twice. Do you know? Barack Hussein Obama. Now, to give Obama credit, he may have been one of 3 chairs or co-chairs. He's close friends with Blagojevich, and he was chair of his re-election committee. That means the money, right? So, anyway, a new report, Dick Simpson and his colleagues at the University of Chicago, documents the extent to which the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago have been hotbeds of corruption. Chicago, they conclude, is the dubious distinction of being the federal district with the most convictions since 1976. I suppose if I was a radical Democrat, I would say that shows they're really on it. But here's some numbers. Since then, 1,828 elected officials, appointees, government employees, and a few private individuals, Tony Resco, the president's best friend, being one of them, have been convicted of corruption in Illinois, and 84% of these were in its northern district, a judicial zone which contains the entire Chicago metropolitan area. During this time, around 1/3 of the city's aldermen have been convicted of corruption. No mayors have been convicted or indicted, not even Bill Thompson, who was backed by Al Capone. Although Chicago is the capital of corruption, the state of Illinois as a whole ranks only 3rd in the country after the much more populous states of New York and Chicago. But the report documents a pattern of crime that has become synonymous with the Chicago or Illinois way of doing things. All the corrupt governors, 26 of the aldermen, had tried to extract bribes from builders, developers, business owners, and those seeking to do business with the city or state. Barack Obama's only pretense of practicing law was he worked in a law firm that specialized in doing property deals using state money, right, private people, and he represented 2 slumlords, there was 2 principals in one firm, who ended up going to prison. This is Barack Obama. All the corrupt governors and 26 of the aldermen had tried to extract bribes from builders, developers, business owners, and those seeking to do business with the city or the state. And Tony Resco, the president's close friend, is in jail because he was one of the bribers. Where am I going with this? We're supposed to believe that Barack Obama is the only virgin in the whorehouse. His best friend went to jail for this. The firm he worked for and the clients he represented, they're in jail, right? All for bribery. He lived a pretty decent life even before Resco did the deal to get him the big house. Way beyond, I suspect, anything he earned. But not Barack. No, sir. He's Snow White in the land of the evil. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, Blagojevich going to jail, but the numbers are just stunning. So, when they talk about the Chicago way of doing things, there it is for you, folks. Aaron, welcome to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Let's assume, for the sake of argument, and I hate to think about this, but let's say Barack do get reelected. What do you see the economy looking like in the end of 4 years?
Well, I believe it. I'll answer that question, but let me make this point also. Is that I think it depends what happens in the House and the Senate also. If the Republicans keep control of the House and the Senate, if they get control, right, 60 votes or more, I think that will have a big impact on Obama. If they do not, I just see the economy getting even worse. There's some stuff in the press, the market's up, and it's because people think Obama's going to get reelected. It's just the opposite. The numbers are terrible. I was going to talk about that. Maybe on Monday I have it. If you look, the Wall Street Journal today has a series of graphs on page 2 showing some of the major economic indicators from the start of the recession, where we were at the start of the recession, what's happened and where we are now, and it's a disaster. I think it'll get worse. I think because Obama, and more importantly, Team Obama, you know, I say constantly, but I want you to hear this, is that I don't think it's the guy in the pictures. He does not have the background or ability or capability to be the president of your local convenience store. He's not doing it. But the whole Team Obama, they do not understand how people work. We all work in our own best interest. I just read you an article about people working in their own best interest, and they don't understand that somebody has to hunt diligently and efficiently, no matter what the political system, or ultimately we all starve. So that's a long-winded answer to say, if he gets another 4 years and the Republicans don't have control of the Congress, I think the economy will be even worse than it is. Because you can't keep running the huge deficits with its threat of huge future taxes, to say nothing if they really do increase taxes, and the huge threat of, or the future threat of huge inflation, which is what's happening, is going to be the result, or at least the conventional wisdom says, going to be the result of what at that point will be 5 years of essentially zero interest rates from the Federal Reserve. You have all this money, they're printing an immense amount of money, all floating around in the system, and the inflation will be huge. So I don't know. I think it'll be much worse if he gets in and the Republicans don't have control of the Congress. If they do, I don't think it'll be as bad. And I will say this. There is a somewhat cheery note. I have great faith in the American people. And I believe not even the abominables can hold us down, perhaps for 8 years. And as a practical matter, I think what you'd see is a big increase in what's called the gray economy, Aaron. People that work for cash, you know, the plumber shows up and how much to fix my broken pipe? $500, unless you pay me cash, and then it's $450. You'll see more and more of that. And it cuts the head off the snake. Aaron, I appreciate your listening. And I appreciate your call, and it's a really interesting question. I have a little more information on the Chicago way of doing things, and this comes from the American Thinker. It's entitled, Some Splaining to Do in Chicago. On February 27th, the Chicagoland website Illinois Pay-to-Play cited the star witness in the Operation Gambit trials of the early 90s, Robert Cooley, as a primary source for the news that Daniel Frawley says he gave $400,000 in cash to Tony Resco, who then passed it on to Barack Obama. In case you missed Cooley's story, James Peterson, writing for Andrew Breitbart's Big Journalism, noted that in the mid-1980s, Chicago outfit lawyer Robert Cooley voluntarily went undercover for the FBI as part of an investigation called Operation Gumbat. Cooley wore a wire on, among others, Alderman Ed Burke's good friend and made man, Alderman Fred Rohde, the chief judge of Cook County's Chancery Court, and an assistant Senate Majority Leader of the Illinois State Senate were also targeted. Cooley's work eventually led to the only judge in U.S. history being convicted of fixing a murder trial. Cooley's a Chicago legend. As the star witness for the prosecution back then, Cooley's credibility was validated by 26 convictions. Now Cooley's back on the Chicago scene, along with some news that leaves a number of current and former Chicagoans with some splaining to do. That's the article, not me. Among the short list are these persons of interest. U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald goes on, and basically says that we have people saying that they know Obama was bribed. Is this a Republican? Is this a Republican plot to get Obama? I don't know. I always have been. Attorney General Patrick Fitzgerald was the guy that chased Dick Cheney so hard when there was no evidence that Cheney knew about that whole CIA mess. What was her name? The woman who was outed, and they didn't know who, and it turned out to be the people at the Department of State. Anyway, he was a real bulldog on that one, and I thought, man, they're sending him to Chicago? That's interesting. But he hasn't come up with anything in Chicago. And I just shared with you about Chicago, and I'm telling you, you have to be naive beyond a shadow of a doubt to believe that Barack Obama is clean. There is no way he is clean. But I'll tell you how people think, at least people on the way left, is he was a black man, and it was his turn. And if he had to take a little money to get along, everybody in Chicago takes a little money, so why should he be any different? So his skin color excuses him, and we've moved him along as he deserves to be moved along. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he took Resco to confession every Saturday night. They made him talk to the priest about stealing all that money, taking all that bribe money. But given Obama's record, given the fact he let somebody else write a book for him and he doesn't mind claiming that he wrote the book and he's made millions of dollars from it, given his clear love of money in terms of the trips, the house, all of this kind of stuff, I find it really hard to believe. Really hard to believe. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go away, and we have a caller, and we'll start with you when we come back. You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. We'll be right back.
The concert event of 2012 is coming to Gainesville this Friday night. Hope rocks, Dystonia sucks, featuring the outrageous band Bag of Donuts from New Orleans. This Friday at 8 Seconds in downtown Gainesville. Doors open at 7 p.m. and local favorite Toothless Judy kicks off the show at 8 p.m. You don't want to miss this event. Tickets on sale now at tylershope.org. That's tylershope.org.
I'm Wally, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do fish. And when I have a question about fishing, I ask Gary. That's right, Gary, at Gary's Tackle Box in Gainesville. He has the most up-to-date information for the hottest fishing action in our area. He'll guide you to the best choice of rods and reels, from Lew's to Loomis. He's got you covered for fresh and salt water with a complete line of tackle. He can also spool your reels with mono, fluorocarbon, or braid while you wait. Gary's Tackle Box is located at L&S Auto Trim, Gainesville's finest in auto and boat upholstery since 1952.
That's right, Wally. L&S specializes in convertible tops, leather, and custom canvas work.
If you have a fishing question, come in and ask Gary at Gary's Tackle Box.
And to spruce up your car or boat interior, ask Wally or Lee at L&S Auto Trim, 441 North between 53rd Avenue and the Highway Patrol Station.
L&S Auto Trim and Gary's Tackle Box are thankful for your business and always ready to help.
This is Max. And this is Charlie. Max and Charlie could father up to 400 offspring in a single year because they're not neutered. You can help fix this problem by purchasing the Florida Animal Friends Spay and Neuter license plate. All money raised supports organizations that offer low or no-cost spay and neuter services across Florida. Visit www.floridaanimalfriend.org to get your spay and neuter license plate today. That's floridaanimalfriend.org.
Wake up! Wake up! Tyranny is coming! Tyranny is coming! Wake up! We're back. You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. 352-3723. 995-372-3995. John, welcome to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show.
Yeah, hi. I'm just calling you in response to somebody was asking you about results of the election.
Yeah.
I talked about what would happen with the deficit if Obama was reelected. I would like to bring your attention to a study done by a nonpartisan group, the Center for Responsible Federal Budget.
Right.
This group includes Bowles and Simpson and a bunch of.
I know all that.
The projected debt to GDP ratios in 2021 of the various candidates is Obama 76, Paul 76, Romney 86, Gingrich is up at 114, and Santorum is somewhere in between.
Yeah.
So the budget, these people that you think are going to do these great things with the deficit, the Republicans, number one, have no track record of actually producing.
Let me ask.
Nor do their plans even have.
I agree with you. We certainly have a record of Obama producing. There's no doubt about that.
No, Republicans.
Wait a minute. Listen to me. Listen to me, please.
I'm correcting you.
Well, I'm hearing you correct me, but I'm going to point out something that study, as well as many of their other studies, are static. They take the numbers given to them in the budget, and they assume that the budget will have no impact on people's behavior. Anybody who believes that we will survive in a prosperous way 4 more years of Barack Obama is clearly
you're ignoring
crazy.
the numbers.
No, I'm ignoring.
You're absolutely ignoring the numbers.
But you know what, John? I'm going to tell you. In the next 8 months, we're going to see numbers from Obama's people like we've never seen before. We're going to be bombarded with numbers.
Let's talk about real numbers and numbers produced by nonpartisan committees that actually have mathematicians and serious financial
well, it's the big one. The big quote always is Congressional Budget Office. For people who are listening,
this is not the CBO.
I understand.
A nonpartisan committee.
For people who are listening, let me point this out. There's two ways to do economic analysis. One is the way the Congressional Budget Office and its offshoots and people on the left like to do is called static analysis. They assume that the assumptions underlying the economic proposal are going to happen, which they never do. All right, and so you get these bizarre things, sort of like Obamacare will save money. Give me a break.
Okay.
All right, well, let me finish. The other way is you do a live, for lack of a better term. I don't remember what the official term is. You do a live analysis that says things like when you increase people's taxes, government revenue drops precipitously, things like that. And so, you know, the numbers, John, you know, they're irrelevant. But I tell you what, I'm going to spend some time next week talking about the economy. And you know what? Why don't you call in?
Can I respond to that?
No. I want to move on to something else, actually. And you just caught in the wrong place in the agenda, but I like talking to you. Because you obviously do some research. But we're going to talk about the economy next week because we are being bombarded. Obama was just on before smiling, saying things are getting better. Look around you, are they? Anyway, John, thanks for listening and for calling. I got one kind of goofy thing I want to talk about, a little more about Obama and his reelection. And maybe there's hope. Do you know who Sheriff Joe Arpaio is? He's the sheriff, the head law enforcement officer in Maricopa County. That's Phoenix, Arizona, 4.5 million people. And he's an interesting guy. And he is famous for his immigration stance. If you're an illegal alien in that area, you get some heat. And appropriately so in the eyes of most Americans. And of course, but not in the eyes of Barack Obama and Eric Holder, our United States Attorney General. And so the Attorney General has been investigating Arpaio. I think he's trying to get him indicted or thrown out or whatever on some kind of equal opportunity thing, right? Of course, always diversity, not treating somebody right in somebody's mind. Well, Arpaio, I believe before at least the formal start of Holder's department's investigation, before that, he started investigating Obama and Obama's birth certificate and what have you. Now, I have to tell you, I have forgotten the bidding on this. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not an attorney, but as long as Obama was born to his mother, the one he claims was his mother, he's an American citizen from what I can tell. It is what used to be called jus sanguis, right? The right of blood or justice of blood or something. I forgot. It's been a long time since I had that course. And so he's an American citizen because his mother was an American citizen. Now, it gets a little dicier, I suppose, one, if she really turns out not to be his mother, and now we don't know who his mother is. Maybe it's what Arpaio's going to end up saying. But two, there is the thing in the Constitution that says natural-born parents, and that's the one area in the Constitution that is not apparently discussed in the Federalist Papers as such, and in other places. And the thinking of historians is it was so obvious at the time that they didn't think it was worth defining. And apparently what it meant is both your parents had to be born in the United States. And the reasons, I think, are apparent. And that is they didn't want some duke from Great Britain coming over, fathering a child and having that child be put in place as president because of the duke's power or the money or whatever. But anyway, I think Obama is probably a U.S. citizen, so I don't understand why he would not be eligible, but there's some argument. But here's what I find interesting, because I think Obama, more than anybody else in our society, public figure, really does illustrate the big lie. And I talk about the big lie a lot, because it's what's most annoying. You know, it's the biomass plant on a local level. But listen to this. So let me say this first. Maybe there's hope. And I think Holder and Obama are screwing with the wrong guy, with Joe Arpaio. So Joe Arpaio, what he did 6 months ago or so, he set up what he has, or he gave to what he calls his cold case posse. 3 retired law enforcement officers, 2 retired attorneys, and I guess they do cold cases. And he gave them Obama and Obama's birth certificate based on the issue. Some people petitioned Arpaio as their, and they were Tea Party people, as their sheriff, their chief law enforcement officer. They said he should not be on the Arizona ballot for whatever reason. I don't know. And as I just gave you that disclaimer, I don't understand why you can say he can't be president because his birth certificate's wrong. All right, but maybe there's something there. But they petitioned him, and Arpaio said, I got 250 of my citizens saying this is a problem, so we're going to investigate. Here's the outcome. President Barack Obama's long-form birth certificate, released by the White House on April 27, 2011, is suspected to be a computer-generated forgery. Excuse me, not a scan of an original 1961 paper document as represented by the White House when the long-form birth certificate was made public. Thank you, Donald Trump. All right. This is the major preliminary finding of a 6-month ongoing sheriff's cold case posse law enforcement investigation into the authenticity of Obama's birth certificate and his eligibility to be president. Now, let me tell you, I am not a birther, which is a group of people out there that believe he wasn't born wherever he was born and I dropped from Mars or whatever. I'm not making fun of them. I don't remember what their claims are. They claim he's a Kenyan or he's a this or that. All right, but this goes on. Having developed probable cause to believe the long-form birth certificate was most likely a computer-generated forgery, investigators began examining other evidence of President Obama's life history. They have developed credible evidence suggesting President Obama's selective service card was most likely a forgery, revealed by an examination of the postal date stamp on the document. Records of immigration and naturalization service cards filled out by airplane passengers arriving on international flights originating outside the United States in the month of August 1961, examined at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., are missing records for the week of President Obama's birth, including the dates, August 1st, 1961 through August 7th, 1961. I won't read you the whole thing, but they go on to say the cold case investigators further determined that the Hawaii Department of Health has engaged in what sheriff's investigators believe is a systematic effort to hide from public inspection whatever original 1961 birth records the Hawaii Department of Health may have in their possession. The cold case posse investigators advised Sheriff Arpaio that the forgers most likely committed 2 crimes. First, in fraudulently creating a forgery that the White House characterized knowingly or unknowingly as an officially produced governmental birth record. What's the odds of unknowingly? I guess it's how you define the White House. If it includes Axelrod and those guys as the White House, unknowingly, give me a break. As an officially produced governmental birth record. And second, in fraudulently presenting to the residents of Maricopa County, Phoenix, and to the American public at large a forgery the White House represented as proof positive of President Obama's authentic 1961 Hawaii long-form birth certificate. And Arpaio goes on to say, Obama can straighten all this out by letting them have, and everybody have access to, or telling the people in Hawaii, give them access to everything. And but this is the summary statement from Arpaio. In fact, absent the authentication of Hawaii Department of Health 1961 birth records for Barack Obama, there is no other proof he was born anywhere within the United States. And if you watched, I caught some of his news conference. You couldn't not if you're interested in this stuff. And the people that did the investigation certainly are creditable. And what I found interesting is that they seemed, I believed them in a sense that they said they wanted to get it out of the way or not. Interesting. I don't know whether it has an impact, but I tell you this, it has a huge impact if he's lying. I don't know whether he should be on ballots, not on ballots, all of that kind of stuff. But it is a gigantic lie if that's not true. So, a day for Obama. He comes from Chicago, but he's the virgin. And where does he really come from? Joe Arpaio says, you're going to come after us? It can go both ways, big guy. Interesting. And then I want to finish with this. And it is, I was at the supervisor of elections yesterday, and they were useful. Thank you, Kim, for outreach, the outreach person there. I'll tell you this. If the Republicans are unhappy with the election schedule, they can do a ballot initiative. That's what I figured out. In fact, they can do a lot. And since there are 14,000 of them registered in the city, it should be a slam dunk. You only need about 7,400 people signing petitions to get stuff on the ballot. The election, how about roads, transit, properties like Ironwood and Mom's Kitchen, the mayor's research assistant. You could do a ballot initiative for every one of those. Doesn't cost a lot. It's a lot of energy and it's a lot of volunteers. And it's a very clumsy way to govern. But you can offset the city commission. You really can. You can offset those people. And I believe some of what Stafford Jones, the Republican chair, says about The place is gerrymandered. The system's set up against them because it's been a liberal Democrat stronghold for so long. But there's a way around it. It's clumsy, but there's... And the real message to you to think about over the weekend is we don't have to take it. We don't have to take it. You can play by the rules and get around a lot of this stuff. You don't like the elections, you want them on in November with other elections, do a ballot initiative. You don't like what they're doing about transit, do a ballot initiative. You don't like the mayor's research assistant, do a ballot initiative. Clumsy? Heck yes. A hammer trying to kill a fly? Absolutely. But you know what? You can do it. You can do it. And just like Ron, you're upset about something, you can do something about it. Run for office. Do a ballot initiative. Change the election date. There's 14,000 Republicans. You can take back some of the control. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Thomas Hayes Morrison show. Joey, thanks for making it happen. Do something this weekend. Pay attention. I know you can do it. We'll see you Monday at 11 o'clock right here on the Star 99.5. Have a great weekend. Get organized. We'll see you.